The afternoon of October 17th, 1987, felt almost picture-perfect in the quiet town of Willow Creek, Pennsylvania. Autumn had settled in fully, painting the hills and forests in deep shades of red, orange, and gold. The air carried that cool, crisp bite that comes just before winter, and dry leaves drifted slowly across the streets whenever the wind blew. It was the kind of peaceful fall day when families packed into their cars just to enjoy the changing colors of the countryside. In a small white house near the edge of town, the Turner family was getting ready to do exactly that. Michael Turner, a 39-year-old mechanic known around town for his calm personality and hardworking nature, had just finished a long week at the local auto shop. Weekends were usually the only time he could truly relax with his family. His wife, Laura Turner, was 36 and worked part-time at the town's elementary school library. Friends often described her as warm and patient, the kind of person who remembered everyone's birthdays and always had a smile ready. Their two children, Emily, who was 12, and Jake, who was 8, had spent most of the morning playing outside in piles of fallen leaves scattered across the yard. That afternoon, Michael suggested something simple, a quiet drive through the hills just outside town. Hawthorne Ridge Road was famous among locals for its breathtaking fall scenery. The narrow road wound through thick forests and climbed along a ridge that overlooked miles of colorful woodland below. During autumn, people often drove there just to watch the sunset through the trees. It wasn't unusual for families to take slow evening drives along the ridge, stopping occasionally to take photos or simply enjoy the peaceful view. Around 4:30 p.m., neighbors noticed Michael pulling their blue 1985 Ford station wagon out of the driveway. Emily and Jake were sitting in the back seat, still laughing and arguing about who would get the window seat. Laura carried a small camera with her, hoping to take a few pictures of the leaves along the ridge. As Michael backed the car onto the street, he waved casually to a neighbor working in their yard and mentioned they were heading out for a short autumn drive before dinner. The station wagon rolled slowly down the quiet street, disappearing between rows of houses and trees glowing in the soft golden light of the late afternoon sun. Nothing about the moment seemed unusual. There were no signs of stress, no arguments, no strange visitors. Just a normal American family heading out to enjoy a peaceful fall evening together, unaware that this simple drive along a quiet country road would become the last time anyone in Willow Creek would ever see them. When the Turner family didn't return home that night, it didn't immediately cause alarm. In a small town like Willow Creek, it wasn't unusual for families to stay out late during the fall season. Many people drove out to the ridge to watch the sunset or stopped somewhere along the way for dinner. But as the hours passed and the lights in the Turner house remained off, a quiet sense of concern slowly began to grow among the neighbors who knew them well. By early Sunday morning, that concern turned into something more serious. A neighbor who often checked in on the family noticed the car was still gone and that the house was completely silent. The curtains hadn't moved, the porch light was off, and the newspapers from that morning sat untouched at the edge of the driveway. Around 9 a.m., the neighbor decided to call the local police department, explaining that something about the situation didn't feel right. Within a few hours, officers from the Willow Creek Police Department began looking into the situation. At first, they believed the family might have stayed overnight somewhere or simply taken an unplanned trip. But when investigators spoke with relatives and friends, they quickly realized that wasn't likely. The Turners hadn't packed any luggage, hadn't mentioned travel plans to anyone, and had left their home exactly as it had been the day before. By the afternoon, the case was officially treated as a missing persons investigation, and a large search operation began across the rural areas surrounding the town. Deputies drove slowly along miles of winding country roads, checking ditches, forest clearings, and roadside pull-offs. Volunteers from the community joined in, walking through thick woods and scanning the ground for tire marks or broken branches that might indicate a vehicle had left the road. Search dogs were brought in to follow any possible scent trails, and helicopters flew overhead scanning the forests from above. The focus quickly shifted toward Hawthorne Ridge Road, the scenic route Michael had mentioned before leaving town. Investigators believed the family had most likely driven there that evening. But after hours of searching the ridge and surrounding forest, there was still no sign of the blue Ford station wagon, no signs of an accident, and no evidence that the Turner family had ever been there at all. About a week after the Turner family disappeared, investigators were running out of new leads. Search teams had already covered miles of forest and roadside areas without finding a single clue. The case was beginning to feel like a puzzle with missing pieces. Then, late one afternoon, a man walked into the Willow Creek Police Department with information he believed might be important. He was a long-haul truck driver named Daniel Harper, and he claimed he might have seen the Turner family's car the night they vanished. Daniel explained that on the evening of October 17th, he had been driving his usual delivery route along several rural roads outside Willow Creek. Around sunset, he remembered passing through Hawthorne Ridge Road, the same scenic route investigators believed the family had taken. Truck drivers often used the road as a shortcut between highways, even though it was narrow and surrounded by thick forest. Daniel said he had been driving slowly along one of the winding curves when something on the side of the road caught his attention. Parked near the edge of the tree line was a blue station wagon that looked very similar to the one described in the missing persons report. The car's headlights were still on, glowing faintly in the fading evening light. What made the situation feel strange to him was the way the vehicle was positioned. It wasn't parked neatly along the shoulder like someone stopping to enjoy the view. Instead, it sat slightly crooked, as if it had rolled to a sudden stop. As Daniel drove past, he noticed something even more unusual. The driver's side door appeared slightly open, moving gently with the breeze. From his seat high inside the truck cab, he tried to glance inside the vehicle while passing it. But he couldn't see anyone in the driver's seat or the back. For a moment he wondered if someone had pulled over and stepped into the woods nearby. Still, the entire scene felt oddly quiet. Daniel told investigators that he slowed down and briefly looked toward the dark forest beside the road. The trees were thick, and the fading sunlight barely reached between them. He didn't hear voices, footsteps, or any movement at all, just the sound of wind rustling through dry autumn leaves. At the time, he assumed whoever owned the car was probably walking somewhere along the ridge. But when he later saw the news reports about the missing Turner family, the image of that lonely blue station wagon on Hawthorne Ridge Road suddenly felt far more unsettling. As investigators focused more attention on Hawthorne Ridge Road, they began speaking with longtime residents of Willow Creek who knew the area better than anyone. Many of the older locals had lived near the ridge for decades, and several of them shared stories about the road that made the investigators pause. According to these residents, the road had always carried a quiet but uneasy reputation. People often drove along it during the day to enjoy the beautiful autumn views, but very few locals liked traveling there late at night. The reason wasn't ghost stories or urban legends. Instead, it had to do with the land itself. Beneath the forest-covered hills surrounding Hawthorne Ridge were the remains of old coal mines that dated back to the early 1900s. During that time, miners had dug long tunnels through the earth searching for coal, creating a network of underground passages stretching for miles beneath the ridge. When the mines eventually closed, many of the entrances were sealed, but the tunnels themselves remained hidden beneath the ground. Over the decades, nature slowly reclaimed the area. Trees grew over the old mining sites, and layers of soil and fallen leaves covered the scars left behind by decades of digging. From the surface, everything looked completely normal, just another quiet stretch of forest road winding through the hills. But geological records showed that the ground in some parts of the ridge had become unstable, weakened by the hollow spaces left behind underground. Local authorities had occasionally warned about small ground collapses that happened in remote areas of the ridge over the years. These collapses were rare, but when they did occur, they sometimes created sudden depressions in the earth where the ground had given way into the empty tunnels below. Most of these incidents happened far from the road, deep in the forest where no one usually traveled. Despite hearing these stories, investigators still carefully searched the entire stretch of Hawthorne Ridge Road. Officers walked along both sides of the pavement, scanning for broken guardrails, tire tracks, or any sign that a vehicle might have left the roadway. They even reviewed old mining maps to identify possible underground tunnels beneath the area. Yet after days of searching, the road appeared completely normal, quiet, undisturbed, and covered with the same layer of fallen autumn leaves that had likely been there the night the Turner family vanished. For decades, the mystery of the Turner family slowly faded into the background of Willow Creek's history. New families moved into town, businesses changed hands, and younger generations grew up hearing the story only as a strange local legend. The case files remained stored away in police archives, occasionally revisited by investigators but never producing any new answers. 36 years passed, and many people believed the truth about what happened that autumn evening in 1987 would never be discovered. Then, in the summer of 2023, a development project began near the edge of Hawthorne Ridge. The county had approved plans to create a new nature hiking trail designed to attract visitors and tourists during the fall season. Construction crews arrived with bulldozers and digging equipment, clearing away sections of brush and leveling uneven ground near the ridge. At first, the project seemed routine, just another outdoor improvement project in the quiet countryside. One afternoon, as workers were using heavy machinery to remove a thick section of soil and tree roots, something unexpected happened. The ground beneath one of the machines suddenly shifted and collapsed, causing part of the earth to cave inward. The operator quickly stopped the equipment as a cloud of dust rose from the newly formed hole. At first, the workers assumed they had uncovered an old mining cavity, something that occasionally happened in areas with abandoned coal tunnels. As the dust slowly settled, one of the workers climbed down carefully toward the edge of the collapse to get a better look inside. What he saw made him immediately call the others over. Partially buried beneath layers of dirt and rock was something metallic, something that clearly didn't belong inside an old mine shaft. A curved surface coated in rust reflected the faint sunlight reaching into the hole. The workers began clearing away loose soil by hand, revealing more of the strange object beneath the ground. Within minutes, the shape became more recognizable. It wasn't just random metal debris. It looked like the roof of a vehicle, crushed and buried deep below the surface of the forest floor. Realizing the discovery might be something serious, the construction crew quickly shut down the entire worksite and contacted local authorities to report what they had found beneath the earth. Within hours of the construction crew's call, the quiet clearing near Hawthorne Ridge was filled with flashing lights from police vehicles and emergency crews. Investigators carefully secured the area while a team of specialists prepared to examine the collapsed ground. The hole revealed by the construction equipment was deeper than anyone initially expected, leading down into what appeared to be a large underground chamber hidden beneath decades of soil and tree growth. What had first seemed like a simple construction accident was quickly turning into something far more significant. Using ropes, lights, and excavation tools, investigators began the slow process of clearing away layers of dirt that had buried the object below. As more soil was removed, the metallic shape became unmistakable. The curved roof, shattered windows, and corroded metal frame clearly belonged to a station wagon. Years of pressure from the earth above had crushed parts of the vehicle, but enough of the structure remained visible for investigators to recognize it as an older model car. When more of the vehicle was uncovered, one detail immediately caught everyone's attention. Beneath the rust and dirt, faint patches of faded blue paint could still be seen along the side panels. Officers standing near the excavation exchanged uneasy glances. The description matched exactly with the 1985 blue Ford station wagon that had disappeared along with the Turner family decades earlier. What they were looking at was not just an abandoned car, it was very likely the vehicle that had been missing since 1987. Carefully, investigators opened what remained of the crushed doors and began examining the interior of the vehicle. Inside, buried under layers of debris and time, they discovered the heartbreaking confirmation of their suspicions. The remains of 4 individuals were still inside the car. The positioning suggested the family had been seated exactly as they would have been during the drive. Michael in the driver's seat, Laura beside him, and the 2 children in the back. As investigators continued studying the position of the vehicle, another disturbing detail became clear. The station wagon was angled sharply downward, its front end buried deeper into the collapsed ground as if it had plunged suddenly into the earth. The surrounding rock and soil formations suggested the car had fallen into a hollow space below the road, likely connected to one of the long-forgotten mining tunnels beneath Hawthorne Ridge. After the discovery of the vehicle, geological experts and investigators began carefully studying the area surrounding the collapsed chamber beneath Hawthorne Ridge. Old mining maps were brought out from county archives, some of them fragile and yellowed with age. These records showed that beneath the road where the Turner family had likely driven that evening, there had once been a large network of coal mining tunnels stretching deep into the hillside. Most of these tunnels had been abandoned more than 70 years earlier. Over time, the wooden supports that once held those underground passages together had slowly rotted away. Without maintenance, sections of the tunnels had gradually weakened, leaving empty pockets beneath layers of soil and rock above. Experts explained that in places like this, the ground can appear completely stable on the surface for decades while slowly hollowing out underneath. Eventually, when the weight above becomes too great, the earth can suddenly collapse into the empty space below. Investigators believed that on the evening of October 17, 1987, the Turner family had been driving along Hawthorne Ridge Road just as the ground beneath a section of the road was reaching its breaking point. With the weight of the vehicle passing over it, the weakened earth likely gave way without warning, opening a sudden sinkhole directly beneath the station wagon. The collapse would have happened in a matter of seconds, giving Michael no time to brake or steer away. When the car plunged into the hollow tunnel below, Tons of loose soil and rock likely followed it down almost immediately. The collapse would have sealed the opening above, covering the vehicle beneath layers of earth, fallen leaves, and debris from the surrounding forest. From the surface, the road may have looked only slightly disturbed, especially after wind and weather scattered more leaves across the ground during the following days. That simple natural process explained why search teams in 1987 had never found any sign of the Turner family. Their car had not driven off the road, and it had not been taken by anyone. Instead, it had vanished into the ground itself, hidden beneath the forest floor just a short distance from where volunteers and investigators had searched for days during the original investigation. The discovery finally brought answers to a mystery that had haunted Willow Creek for more than 3 decades. What once seemed like an impossible disappearance now had a heartbreaking explanation hidden beneath the earth all along. The quiet road where the Turner family had taken their last drive was no longer just a scenic route through autumn forests. It had become a silent reminder of how quickly an ordinary moment can turn into tragedy. For many people in the town, the truth was both painful and relieving. For 36 years, rumors and theories had surrounded the family's disappearance. Some believed they had run away. Others feared something far darker had happened. But in the end, the answer wasn't a crime or a mystery created by people. It was simply the unpredictable power of nature, hidden beneath a peaceful road covered in falling leaves. The remains of the Turner family were finally laid to rest, giving distant relatives and the community a chance to say goodbye after so many unanswered years. The section of Hawthorne Ridge Road where the collapse occurred was permanently closed and marked as unstable ground, ensuring that nothing like it would ever happen again. Even today, when the wind moves through the trees on that ridge and autumn leaves drift across the empty road, locals sometimes think about the family who took a quiet full drive and never returned. A simple moment, a peaceful evening, and a road that kept its secret buried beneath the ground for 36 long years. And sometimes, the most chilling mysteries aren't the ones caused by people, but the ones hidden quietly beneath our feet.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Most importantly, subscribe and hit the bell icon so the next secret finds you first.